Okay, this is just meant to be a quick little review of the trig functions that we've done so far. So in order to be successful with trig, there are a couple of things you need to make sure you remember and can do. One of them is you have to be able to identify the sides and the angles. So you need to be able to identify the sides and angles of the right triangles. Okay, by that what I mean is that no matter how it's drawn, every right triangle has a right angle. And directly across from that right angle, if you go across the middle of the triangle, is the hypotenuse. Okay. Now, normally we name the sides, the angles of the triangle. So angles A, B, and C, for instance. And quite often we name the sides as well. So we normally directly across from the letter use the same letter, lowercase, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can use other letters as well. So instead of lowercase a, I could use something else, but I'm going to name it this way for now. So lowercase b, uppercase b. Now make sure you understand that lowercase b in this case is different than the uppercase. This represents the angle. So it's at the vertex of this angle, which is that opening. It represents how much you rotate to get to the next side. And then the lowercase letters are the sides. Now, this side, directly across from the 90-degree angle, the right angle, is always going to be called the hypotenuse. The other two sides will be called either the adjacent side or the opposite side. And what makes this a little bit more confusing is that it's not constant. So A will not always be the opposite side or always be the adjacent side. It will depend upon what angle we're looking at. So if we look at angle A, side A is directly across from angle A. So opposite and across are synonyms. They mean the same thing. So A is the opposite side to angle A. Now, the adjacent side, well, if you look at B and C, they're both adjacent to A, they're next to it. But this one we're always going to call the hypotenuse. So the unnamed side that is next to angle A would be adjacent to A. So it's adjacent to angle A. Now, it's important to remember, like I said, it depends upon which angle we're talking about. So this is adjacent to angle A, but it is across or opposite to angle B. So if we have this one right here, this is the opposite side. And this is still the hypotenuse because it's directly across from the 90-degree angle. So this is opposite of B. And this side right here, side A, is adjacent to B. Okay, so that's one thing you need to be able to understand and do. The second part is, remember what this is. So, ka, toa. Now the three different trig functions are sine, cosine, tangent. The first letter of each one of these little, whatever you call them, these little things refers to the trig function. So sine, this is cosine, this is the tangent. And then here you would have the angle, right? And then it's going to be equal to a ratio. A ratio is just a fraction. So the second two letters refer to what goes in the numerator and denominator of this ratio. So opposite, hypotenuse. I write OP, you can write OH, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so OP over HYP, or O over H. So the adjacent over the hypotenuse, that's the next two, A over H, or ADJ over H, however you want to write it. It's up to you. So this is OA. Okay. So you're going to use the sides that you've identified along with one of the angles and these trig functions in order to find the sides. So you use the trig functions, trig ratios, that's the sine, cosine, or tangent, to find unknown or missing sides. Okay, so all you do is you're going to be given at least one angle besides the 90-degree angle. And if you are trying to find a particular side, you'll ask for the side, and you will have another side known. So you just have to look at the trig functions, decide which ones these are. So we're going to be talking about this angle right here, this side, and this side. Well, this side is your hypotenuse. This side is the opposite of that 50-degree angle. So this is your opposite side. And then you just have to look at the trig functions and find out and decide which one has both the opposite and the hypotenuse. And that's going to be sine. So you would just plug it in. Sine of the angle, 50, equals the opposite, which is 20, divided by x. And then you solve for x. Okay, so that's how you do that. And the third thing you need to make sure you remember is your inverse trig functions. Okay, you're going to use the inverse trig to find unknown angles. Okay, so you're going to use this one similar to the trig functions. You're going to decide whether you're going to be using sine, cosine, or tangent based on the sides that you have and the angle that you're looking for. And then you're going to plug them in and use your calculator to change. Then you write that in as the inverse of that function, and then use your calculator. So for instance, let's say we have a triangle that looks something like this, 3, 4, alpha, and we're trying to find this angle alpha. Okay. So we would say we have to decide, is that going to be sine of alpha, cosine of alpha, or tangent of alpha? Now, the sine of alpha would be the opposite over the hypotenuse. So this is our opposite. This is our this is our adjacent, and this is our hypotenuse. So we have 4 over h, and we don't know that. We have two unknowns here. We need to know both of the sides for it to work. The cosine would be the adjacent, which is 3 over h. That's not going to work. The tangent, our last one, is going to be 4 over 3. We know both of those, so we're going to be able to use that. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the trig function, the inverse trig function, and this goes in there. So it'll be 4 over 3. The inverse tangent of 4 over 3 equals alpha. This part right here, you just do in the calculator. And your answer will be alpha.